Section 4 of Tales of King Arthur and the Round Table. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Ashley Grace Vo on July 13th, 2015. Tales of King Arthur and the Round Table by Andrew Lang. The Story of Sir Balin. In those days, many kings reigned in the islands of the sea, and they constantly waged war upon each other. And on their liege lord, and news came to Arthur that Ryan's king of North Wales had collected a large host and had ravished his lands and slain some of his people. When he heard this, Arthur rose in anger and commanded that all lords, knights, and gentlemen of arms should meet him at Camelot, where he would call a council and hold a tourney. From every part the knights flocked to Camelot, and the town was full to overflowing of armed men and their horses. And when they were all assembled, there rode in a damsel, who said she had come with a message from the great Lady Lyle of Avalon, and begged that they would bring her before King Arthur. When she was led into his presence, she let her mantle first slip off her shoulders, and they saw by her side a richly wrought sword that was buckled. The king was silent, with wonder at the strange sight. But at last he said, "Damsel, why do you wear this sword? For swords are not ornaments of women." "Oh, my lord," answered she, "I would, if I could find some knight to rid me of this sword which weighs me down and causes me so much sorrow. But the man who will deliver me of it will be one who is mighty of his hands and pure in his deeds, without villainy or treason. If I find a knight such as this, he will draw the sword out of its sheath, and he only. For I have been at the court of King Ryons, and he and his knights tried with all their strength to draw their sword, and they could not." "Let me see if I can draw it," said Arthur. "Not because I think myself the best knight, for well I know how far I am outdone by others, but to set them an example, that they may follow me." With that, the king took the sword by the sheath and by the girdle, and pulled at it with all his force, but the sword stuck fast. "Sir," said the damsel, "you need not pull it so hard, for he that shall pull it out shall do it with little strength." "It is not me," answered Arthur. "And now, my barons, let each man try his fortune." So most of the knights of the Round Table there present stood, one after another, at the sword, but none could stir it from its sheath. "Alas, alas!" cried the damsel in great grief. "I thought to find this court of knights were blameless and true to the heart, and now I know not where to look for them." "By my faith," said Arthur, "there are no better knights in the world than these of mine, but I am sore displeased that they could not help me in this matter." Now, at the time, there was a poor knight at Arthur's court who had been kept prisoner for a year and a half because he had slain the king's cousin. He was of high birth, and his name was Balin, and after he had suffered 18 months of punishment of his misdeed, the barons prayed the king to set him free, which Arthur did willingly. When Balin, standing apart, beheld the knights, one by one, try the sword, and fail to draw it, his heart beat fast, yet he shrank from taking his turn, for he was meanly dressed, and could not compare with the other barons. But after the damsel had bid farewell to Arthur and his court, and was setting out on her journey homewards, he called to her and said, "Damsel, I pray you to suffer me to try your sword, as well these lords, for though I am so poorly clothed, my heart is still as high as theirs." The damsel stopped and looked at him, and answered, "Sir, it is not needful to put you to such trouble, for where so many have failed it is hardly likely that you will succeed." "Ah, fair damsel," said Balin, "it is not fine clothes that make good deeds." "You speak truly," replied the damsel, "therefore do what you can." Then Balin took the sword by the girdle and sheath and pulled it out easily, and when he looked at the sword he was greatly pleased with it. The king and the knights were dumb with surprise, and it was Balin that had triumphed over them, and many had envied him and felt anger towards him. "In truth," said the damsel, "this is the best knight I have ever found, but sir, I pray you give me the sword again." "No," answered Balin, "I will keep it till it is taken from me by force." "It is for your sake, not mine, that I ask for it," said the damsel, "for with that sword you shall slay the man that you love best, and it will bring about your own ruin." "I will take what befalls me," replied Balin, "but the sword I will not give up by the faith of my body." So the damsel departed in great sorrow. The next day Sir Balin left the court, and armed with his sword set forth in search of adventures, which he found in many places he had not thought to meet with them. In all the fights he fought, Sir Balin was the victor, and Arthur and Merlin his friend knew that there was no knight living of greater deeds more worthy of worship, and he was known to all as Sir Balin le Savage, the Knight of Two Swords. One day he was riding forth, when at the turning of the road he saw a cross, and on it was written in letters of gold, "Let no knight ride towards this castle." Sir Balin was reading the writing when there came towards him an old man with white hair, who said, "Sir Balin le Savage, this is not the way for you, so turn again and choose some other path." And so he vanished, and a horn blew loudly as a horn is blown at the death of a beast. "That blast," said Sir Balin, "is for me, but I am still alive." And he rode towards the castle, where a company of knights and ladies met him and welcomed him, and made him a feast. Then the lady of the castle said to him, "Knight with the two swords, you must now fight a knight that guards an island, for it is our law that no man may leave us without he first fight a tourney." "This is bad custom," said Balin, "but if I must, I am ready, for though my horse is weary, my heart is strong." "Sir," said a knight to him, "your shield does not look whole to me, I will lend you another." So Balin listened to him, and took the shield that was offered, and left his own with his own coat of arms behind him. He rode down to the shore, and led his horse into a boat which took him across. When he reached the other side, a damsel came up to him, crying, "O Knight Balin, why have you left your shield behind you? Alas, you could have put yourself in great danger, for by your shield you should have been known. I grieve over your doom, for there is no man living that can rival you for courage and bold deeds." "I repent," answered Balin, "for ever coming into this country, but for the very shame I must go on. Whatever befalls me, either life or death, I am ready to take it." Then he examined his armor, and saw that it was whole, and mounted his horse. As he went along the path, he beheld a knight that came out of a castle in front, clothed in red, riding a horse with red trappings. When this red knight looked on the two swords, he thought for a moment it was Balin, but the shield did not bear Balin's device. So they rode at each other with their spears, and smote each other's shields so hard that both horses and men fell to the ground with a shock, and the knights lay unconscious on the ground for a few minutes. But soon they rose up again, and began the fight afresh, and they fought until the place was red with their blood, and they had each 7 great wounds. "What knight are you?" asked Balin le Savage, pausing for a breath, "for never before have I found any knight to match me." "My name," said he, "is Balan, brother to the good knight Balin." "Alas!" cried Balin, "that I should never live to see this day," and he fell back fainting to the ground. At this sight Balan crept on his feet and hands, and pulled off Balin's helmet, so that he might see his face. The fresh air revived Balin, and he woke and said, "O Balan, my brother, you have slain me, and I you, and the whole world will speak ill of us both." "Alas," said Balan, "if I had only known you! I saw your 2 swords, but from your shield I thought you had been another knight." "Woe is me," said Balin. "All this was wrought by an unhappy knight in the castle, who caused me to change my shield for his. If I lived, I would destroy that castle, that he should not deceive other men." "You have done well," answered Balan, "for they have kept me prisoner ever since I slew a knight that guarded this island, and they would have kept you captive too." Then came a lady of the castle and her companions, and listened as they made their moan, and Balan prayed that she would grant them grace to lie together there where they died. And their wish was given to them, and she and those that were with her wept for pity. So they died, and the lady made a tomb for them, and put Balan's name alone for it, for Balin's name she knew not. But Merlin knew, and next morning he came and wrote it in letters of gold, and he ungirdled Balin's sword, and unscrewed the pommel, and put another pommel in it, and he bade a knight that stood by handle it, but the knight could not. At that Merlin laughed. "Why do you laugh?" asked the knight. "Because," said Merlin, "no man shall handle this sword but the best knight in the world, and that is either Sir Launcelot or his son Sir Galahad. But with his sword Sir Launcelot shall slay the man he loves best, and his name is Sir Gawain." And this was later done in a fight across the seas. All this Merlin wrote on the pommel of the sword. Next he made a bridge of steel to the island, 6 inches broad, and no man could pass over it that was guilty of any evil deeds. The scabbard of the sword he left on the side of the island, so that Galahad should find it. The sword itself he put into a magic stone, which floated down the stream to Camelot, and is now called Winchester. And the same day Galahad came to the river, having in his hands a scabbard, and he saw the sword and pulled it out of the stone, as is told in another place. End of section 4.